Major Vora Senn was looking out of the shuttle's viewports at the stellar phenomena around her planet. It never got old. She looked at the person in the next seat. He was a human, a doctor. He was looking at a data slate and not at the wonders around him. Senn, you don't find our stellar displays interesting, Doctor. Thorne, not looking up, no, it is amazing. Really, really amazing. Senn, I'm glad you're enjoying our local color. He did not seem to notice the sarcasm. He was still reading his data slate. Senn, that must be very interesting. Thorne, it is. It is the latest medical report from your little space station. Very revealing. She ignored the slight in the word little. Senn, oh, so you are our new doctor. Thorne, I am. Senn, what brings you to our corner of the galaxy? We normally have trouble attracting doctors. Thorne, still reading his report. I could have had any posting I wanted. I chose this. I didn't want some remote research lab or a boring assignment on Earth. I wanted this. The edge of the galaxy. Right where the fight is. This is where stuff happens. This is where history is made. This is frontier. Medicine. Senn, Steely, the frontier is my home. And we're not here to be interesting for you, Doctor. The doctor did not even notice the tone. She decided that he was going to be trouble. They landed at the station and Dr. Thorne did not even acknowledge her as he disembarked. She was responsible for the station's security. She went to her desk and pulled up the Thorne file, Security Assessment. Subject, Dr. Cassian Thorne. Class, Alpha Level Medical Specialist. Academic standing, 2ND 450, Unified Earth Medical Academy. The 1-point gap. Dr. Cassian Thorne's file. He is good, brilliant, even. He was second in his year by 1 point. He was right. He could have gone anywhere. So why was he slumming it here? Senn looks for the why. A doctor this talented usually wants the best labs. Why here? His mark was due to the fact that he had just come out of a difficult surgery and went straight into the final exam without sleep. All of this teachers expected him to get 100%, but 98% was still impressive. Senn stared at the timeline in his file. The surgery ended at 9 o'clock. The exam began at 9:30. Most candidates would have requested a deferral. Thorne didn't even ask for a coffee. The 1-point context, 98% under extreme sleep deprivation and physical exhaustion. He's not a rebel or a rule breaker, he's a machine. That 98% wasn't a failure of character, it was a failure of biology. Most people would have collapsed, but Thorne took a final exam while running on post-surgical adrenaline and nearly aced it anyway. That makes him arguably more dangerous to the Major's peace of mind. He isn't running from a scandal. He is a purist. He wants the hardest cases, the highest stakes, and the least amount of bureaucratic fluff. Senn dimmed the lights in her office, the glow of the data slate reflecting in her eyes. She leaned back, watching the footage of Thorne disembarking. He hadn't looked at the station's defenses, the docking clamps, or even the personnel. He was already looking for the med bay. Brilliant, she muttered, tapping the screen where his 98% competency rating stared back at her. But brilliant men are the easiest to break when the math doesn't add up. Senn leaned back in her chair, the station's subtle vibration humming through the floor. She watched the playback of Thorne walking off the shuttle again. He hadn't been being rude. He was likely already diagnosing the station's atmospheric scrubbers by the sound of the vents. 2%, she whispered to the empty room. His only human for 2% of the time. She didn't like it. Competence she could handle. Raw, clinical obsession was something else. If he expected the station to run with the same terrifying efficiency he applied to himself, they were going to have a very long, very loud year. Senn needed to set the boundaries before he tried to optimize her security protocols. She went into the observation deck while he is treating a patient. She was a little girl alien. She was frightened. Senn was astonished to see the doctor give her a broad smile and sweet while saying everything will be fine, and then in a conspiratorial whisper, "Don't tell your mother I gave you this," even though the mother was standing there anxiously and could see everything. Then he turned his attention to the knee that was the reason for the visit. As he scanned it, anterior tearing of the ligament. No need for surgical intervention. The nurse handed him a biological stimulator. He smiled again at the patient. This will just tingle for a little while. She smiled back. At the end of the procedure, he handed the girl back to her mother saying a good night's sleep and tomorrow she will be fine. The mother said, "Thank you doctor." Another smile. "No problem. It is what I am here for," and he waved as they both left. By Iro he knew her name. As the door closed, he spoke to the nurse. "I think we are going to see a lot more or Iro in weeks to come." What was she trying to do? Nurse slide 30 feet down some inclined piping. She made it 29 feet. Thorne, she's going to try again, isn't she? Yes doctor. The nurse examined the device as she cleaned it to be ready for the next patient. This is not a standard design, doctor. No, I modified it. It works 10% faster and with 20% less discomfort. Next patient please. Senn was confused. This was not the cold doctor on the shuttle. She left with more questions than answers. He wasn't being cold on the shuttle. He was simply focused. To Thorne, everything but medicine is a distraction. The nurse's comment is the one that should keep a security major up at night. The skill, he didn't just use the tool, he rebuilt it. The risk, in a high-security environment, modified is a dirty word. If he's willing to rewire medical stimulators to be 10% faster, what else is he willing to optimize without filing a report? Senn watched through the polarized glass as Thorne moved to the next station. He didn't look tired. He didn't even look like the man who had ignored her sarcasm 2 hours ago. He looked like he was exactly where he was born to be. This is not a standard design, doctor. The nurse's voice echoed in Senn's mind. She looked down at her own data slate, the one containing his 98% file. He wasn't slumming it. He was looking for a place where the rules were thin enough for him to actually do his job. She contacted the receptionist to find out when the good doctor would be free to chat. At the appointed time, she entered the examination room. The doctor was waiting with a broad smile. "Good afternoon, Major." "And what seems to be the problem?" "The leg playing up again." She felt self-conscious. "How did you know about the leg?" Thorne, a slight limp. "Well, more of a case of favoring the other leg. It must have been a while ago." "Senn, 2 years. Thorne nodded. "Ah." Senn tried to gain some composure, "But that is not why I am here. I am here about an unreported modified stimulator." His smile did not change. "Thorne, modified?" "Yes." "Unreported?" "No. It is currently under peer review at the Academy, and once they have verified my research, it will become the standard in about 6 months. Senn, so, that means you cannot use it until it has been agreed." Thorne, on the contrary, as a doctor, I am allowed, even encouraged, to modify any treatment I administer to make it appropriate to the particular patient. Senn was not winning, and she hated it, and she hated him for being so arrogant. "Senn, I suppose you will make a lot of money out of this. Then, doctor." "Thorne, the modifications are open source and public domain. I am not going to let some trifling legalities get in the way of the well-being of the patient, Major." She got up to leave, defeated. "Thorne, good afternoon, Major. If you ever need me to look at that leg, just make an appointment. My modified stimulator will do wonders." Later that the evening, Senn was doing her rounds and passed Wizark's bar. She saw a group of people around one table shouting and cheering. She went in, anticipating trouble. She was right. When she got closer, it was the doctor and one of the bar's regulars. From the pile of empty shot glasses on the table, she quickly figured it was a drinking contest. Thorne had just downed a glass of something in one. Now it was his opponent's go. She asked him sharply, "Doctor, I see you are enjoying our backward frontier station." Thorne, "Actually, Major," I said, "frontier medicine. I didn't even consider your station or your people." That made the comment worse. He took his turn and winced. However, if I were forced, I would say that it was boringly civilized. He won the drinking contest and called over to Wizark. "That stuff we were drinking was worse than rocket fuel." Wizark said, "No problem, we'll serve rocket fuel tomorrow." Thorne got up and almost stumbled back and makes his way drunkenly home. She goes over to the bar where Wizark is polishing glasses. "What do you make of our new doctor?" she asks. Wizark shrugs. "I have met his type before, many times. He works hard and plays hard. It doesn't matter what the profession is. Doctor, firefighter, engineer, soldier. They all live on the edge where one wrong choice leads to someone's death. And they all need to decompress." Senn understood this mentality, but she smiled as she left. She had something that could wipe that arrogant smirk off his face. The next morning, Senn entered the surgery with an armed guard ready to arrest Thorne for being drunk whilst attending patients. He was nonplussed. He showed them the morning tox screen he carried out every day. It showed he has no alcohol in his bloodstream. None. She was confused. He pointed to a concoction that he has developed that sucks the alcohol out of the body and replaces fluids. Then he told her he was disappointed in her if she thinks he would do anything to compromise his high office as doctor. She left annoyed at herself because he had outsmarted her again. Major Senn is used to being the smartest, most prepared person in any room. To be lectured on high office by a man she watched stumble home drunk just hours prior is a bitter pill to swallow. The concoction. This is another unauthorized modification. Thorne isn't just practicing medicine. He's hacking human biology. Senn walked down the sterile hallway, the boots of her guards echoing a rhythm that felt mocking. She could still see that calm, nonplussed look on his face as he waved the tox screen results. "Senn," to herself, voice low, "disappointed in me." She stopped at a viewport, watching the station's automated drones repairing a hull plate. Thorne was right. He hadn't compromised his office. He had optimized his recovery just like he optimized the biostimulator. So their friction went on until there was a mysterious illness on board. Suddenly, the doctor's personality changed and he became a machine, ignoring food and sleep and only focused on chasing down the cure. When he finally did, she sees him later. "Senn, you should be in a recovery ward yourself, doctor. But I came to say, if it had been anyone else, we'd be venting half the station's atmosphere by now. Thank you." Thorne. Without looking up, "I know. No one else on this station has the training or the cognitive load capacity to map that protein sequence in under 48 hours. It's a simple fact." Senn. "God, you are the most arrogant man I've ever met." Thorne. Finally looking at her. "No, Major. I am qualified. When I tell a patient they'll be fine, it's not a boast. It's a calculated outcome based on my competence. You call it arrogance because I don't defer to your bars and your stars. You think your rank makes you special. I think my hands make me useful. There is a difference. So, Major, I am not the arrogant one. You are." As she watched him walk away, not with the swagger of a drunk, but with the heavy, purposeful gait of a man who has given everything to his high office, the pieces click into place for her. The equality of the patient. She remembers him with the little girl, Iro. He didn't treat her like a civilian or a local. He treated her with the same intense, focused care he gave the viral outbreak. The rank blindness. Thorne isn't being rude to her, he's being consistent. He treats the Major exactly the same way he treats a dock worker or a child. The mirror. Senn realizes that she was the one looking for a slight. She expected him to bow to her authority, and when he didn't, she labeled it arrogance to protect her own ego. So he crashed for 12 hours straight. The next morning he was back in the clinic and the next evening he was back at the bar, but Senn was waiting for him. "Have you chased off my drinking companion?" "Major, no, she is right here." He smiled, enjoying the challenge, and they start drinking. And drinking and drinking. Finally, Senn says, "I was at Talavos 2 years ago." She takes her turn and winced. He nodded. It was a blood bath. He took his turn and winced. It was a meat grinder. She confirmed and took her turn and winced and glanced up at Wizark, who was smiling. Yes, it was. He emptied his glass and winced. There were rumors of a doctor who was more machine than man working tirelessly on the wounded. She took her turn, then looked at him. He paused. "I was a junior surgeon there. I did a year's worth of surgery every 3 weeks." He took his turn. She said a lot of good soldiers lived because of that and took her turn. He nodded and took his turn. There were rumors of a captain who saved as many good soldiers by their decisive thinking. I never knew their name, or even their gender, but I have studied their after-action reports. A lot of people didn't need to visit me because of them. It was her turn to pause. She nodded and took her turn. They carried on drinking. Eventually the doctor leaned back, said, I'm done. I can't take any more of this cheap poison Wizark serves. She laughed. Good, because I'm done too. Ladies and gentlemen, Wizark says ceremoniously, I declare it a draw. He looked at his last shot glass and laughed. What the hell was that? I can't feel my legs. She laughed again. Neither can I. Can someone help the Major and I get to our respective rooms, please? A couple of people picked them up and dragged them out the bar. The next morning Senn felt rough. That was an understatement. She decided to eat humble pie and see if the doctor could be persuaded to give her some of that cure. She entered the reception. The nurse looked up. Major Senn. Just in time for your appointment. I didn't make an appointment. The doctor did. Go right in. Arrogant bastard, she thought to herself. The door opened. Thorne was standing there, fully alert and sober, and without a word, held out a sample of his cure. She took it. What does it taste like? Thorne, it tastes better than the rubbish we were drinking last night. But not much. She downed it. How long does it take? Thorne, 30 seconds. He was right. The headache was already gone. She looked at the empty vial. Is this stuff even legal? Thorne, it's in trials. So, not technically illegal, she laughed. So now I am lab rat. He scanned her. Welcome to the club. Senn, wait. You get drunk so you can test it on yourself? So even when you are playing, you are actually working? Thorne, no, I get drunk because I choose to get drunk. The data point is just a bonus. She shook her head. He took the term workaholic to a whole new level. So, he said, I would have thought your actions would have warranted more than a promotion to major. She sighed. It did. I could have been a cornet. But I chose to come home. And they only had a requirement for a major. Yes. I chose the station because it was boring. I figured I had earned some boredom. I suppose I was angry at you for daring to make the same comparison. As the cure takes effect and the fog of the rocket fuel lifts, Senn handed back the empty vial and looked at Thorne. Senn. You know, Doctor, if you ever decide to modify the station's life support sensors, just CC me on the report. Off the record. Thorne. I already did. Last Tuesday. You just hadn't noticed the 5% increase in oxygen efficiency yet, but it will mean a 30% reduction in crankiness, so less arguments, fights and arrests. Less fights means less low-grade work for you and I. I learned that idea from a captain on Talavos. Senn. Sighs, heading for the door. I hate you. Thorne. Yes, Major. And shall try my best to make you hate me even more. As she was leaving, she turned. You never thought about taking a boring, safe job? I can't. My enemy is everywhere, so there is nowhere safe or boring. My enemy never sleeps, never surrenders, and never ever stops. I may beat it today, but it will back tomorrow, claiming more lives. Someone has to make a stand. She nodded. Good day, Doctor. Thorne. Good day, Major. See you at Wizarks later. Senn. What makes you think I will be there? Thorne. It was a draw. You hate draws as much as I do. She smiled as she left. Senn walked down the corridor, her headache completely gone, a slight spring in her step. She passes a junior officer who snaped a crisp salute. She returned it, but her mind was already on the station's atmospheric reports. 5%, she muttered, recalling Thorne's claim about the oxygen efficiency. She opened her data slate and checked the environmental logs. He was right. It's exactly 5.2% better. She called on one of her captains. Captain, yes, Senn, have we had a reduction of low-level disturbances? Breach of the peace, domestic disturbance, that kind of thing. Captain did some typing. Yes. About. Senn, 30%. Captain, yes. Senn, very good. Carry on. She closed the slate and smiled. Arrogant bastard, she whispered. And for the first time, it was a compliment.